Hey, welcome. I'm Carmen. I lead up marketing at CarTrack, and today I'll be taking you through a short video overview of what it is that CarTrack is, what it is that we do, and how we make our customers' lives a lot easier. At the end of this video, you'll be given a short quiz. Now, the goal of that quiz is to assess how well you'd be able to adapt to the CarTrack world, the world of physical operations. Don't worry so much as we go through the training or about remembering everything word for word. The key goal of the quiz is to test your general understanding of concepts. So as we go through, just try and focus on understanding the key idea of what I'm talking you through, and that should be more than enough to take you through the quiz and to ace it. Before I get going, I just want to tell you thanks again for taking the time to speak to us, and good luck.
So first off, let's start with physical operations and how we fit in. These are the kind of businesses that are involved in the flow of goods and services. In simple terms, you can think of our customer opportunity as any company that has people that are moving around and completing work, usually completing some sort of service using their own manpower or machinery and vehicles. This could include a logistics company who's using vehicles to deliver food to supermarkets, a construction company who's using machinery to build our schools and homes, a software company who has salespeople who drive out to meet potential customers in the field, a plumbing company who sends plumbers out to fix pipes, a waste management company that picks up the trash from bins on a daily basis, a bus company transporting school kids or the public bus systems, or even a telco company that sends technicians out to repair cell towers and ensure they are maintained. As you can see, physical operations are everywhere, even when they are just part within a bigger business. Our customers power everything that we do. They are the foundation of the communities that we live in and play a critical role in ensuring that our lives are easier. Now, in the day-to-day of running these sort of physical operations, there's tons of moving parts. Between accidents, resource planning, timeline commitments, worker productivity, compliance, customer expectations, there's a lot that can go wrong. Now, what we find is that these businesses are mostly either running on paper-based systems or they're using 5 complex different systems that don't actually speak to each other. And the result of that is that physical operations are stuck with severely obstructed visibility of what's actually going on in their operation. So you can imagine if you were running a logistics operation with over 1,000 trucks or even just 10 trucks, all you know is that your customers are complaining that your deliveries are late and your finance team is warning you that your costs are getting too high. But you don't actually know what's going on in all the touch points in between. Is it that drivers are late to start the day, that they're delayed in the pickup and it's actually a warehousing problem, or are their routes slow, or maybe they're stopping and taking breaks? A bunch of vehicles are off the road because they've been in accidents, so you don't actually have enough vehicles to complete the orders, etc. Now, if you don't have any visibility of what's going on in your operation, where do you even start to understand where your issues are and how can you go about solving them? So what we see is that these businesses become quite paralyzed with their inability to make decisions. So, if we were to think about the same business, this logistics company with 10 vehicles, imagine they have no fleet management system whatsoever, not even GPS. Well, how do they actually know what's going on in their operation? Well, the first thing is that they wait for the drivers to arrive at either their warehouse or at their office in the morning, and then they just know that the drivers have left to go out for the day. Then they can either call the drivers, WhatsApp them to get updates along the day, or they wait for their customers to confirm that their goods have been delivered. As you can imagine, lots of frustration, lots of missed calls, lots of not knowing what is actually going on. If we were to look at scenario 2, and let's say you have the same logistics customer with a GPS tracking device in their vehicle, then obviously they're one step further. So they can see where their vehicles are in real time, and later on throughout the day they can go back and sort of replay trips as if it were almost a YouTube video where they can see the car moving along the map with the timestamps. So over here you have a little bit more visibility because you can see that your driver is actually moving. However, it's still not great. You don't really know which job they're on the way to go to. Are they following the right routes? How long have they been waiting in an area to pick up the cargo? there's lots of stuff that's still missing in the operation. And then we can also move on to less of the productivity side of things, but one step further, which is around safety, costs. So, for example, you have 10 drivers, you see that they're using different amounts of fuel in a month. Is this normal? Is this expected? Is a driver stealing fuel? Is a vehicle inefficient? Again, you don't know without the data and without the analytics and insights to tell you this. A similar thing when a driver is in an accident. Well, an accident can cost a logistics business a lot of money. Not only does it mean that while the vehicle is being repaired, they don't have a vehicle out on the road, so they cannot complete any work and they cannot be paid for it, but also there's a lot of costs involved in the maintenance, insurance costs going up, potential damages and accidents happening with the driver being injured themselves, etc. So it becomes quite a lot of liability, damage to the brand, and these sort of things can have a massive toll on these logistics companies. And if we take it one step even further than that, because we know that customers are pretty demanding nowadays, if you're a customer, you have no idea where your parcels actually are. So imagine you're at home, you're waiting for your new sneakers to arrive. You're kind of impatient. You want to know when are they going to be here. There's an excitement factor. Now, if you're a logistics company and you want that 5-star review, you want your customers to feel like that was an amazing experience, the ideal scenario is that you would constantly update them on where their goods are. So I'm sure you guys have probably experienced with some companies, you can actually open up on your email a link and it allows you to track the driver with your parcels or tell you that your driver is 10 stops away from your delivery, etc. Now, these are all things that take it even one step further about exceeding customer expectations so that these logistics businesses can increase their brand reputation and increase sort of customers coming back to them. These are the kind of issues and challenges that we help our customers solve and overcome. So it's not just about knowing where my drivers are and where my vehicles are on a map and sitting and stalking them. Our solution is really a lot more than that, and we cover areas around safety, productivity, compliance, brand, customer expectations, customer experience, and much more. And later on, I'll take you through how our platform can actually solve these challenges effectively. And with that, I'll take us on to our mission. Why does Cartrack exist? What do we do? Simply put, our goal, our mission is to simplify the decision making of physical operations. Cool. So we simplify decision making for physical operations. And what does that actually mean on a tangible note? And why is that just around simplifying decisions rather than solving specific problems? So the key about Cartrack and our philosophy is we're not just building to solve problems from today or focus on what customers are focused on for today. Our goal is to build a platform, and we do build a platform that is future-proof. So things that we work on today are for problems that customers might experience tomorrow, 3 years from now, or even 10 years from now. And our goal is really, no matter what the customer wants to do, we help simplify them so that they can make that decision and they can act on their problems and their solutions in a really, really easy way. By empowering this simpler decision making, we allow our customers to spend less time, energy, and resources wondering about where they should be spending their time, energy, and resources. Instead, they can focus on executing on their own missions and goals, whether they want to focus on boosting safety, increasing their service delivery, doubling profitability, or reducing emissions. Our platform guides them on a great way to do it. Cool. So if we look over here on the right hand side, you'll see sort of a simplified version explaining exactly what our platform does. So on the bottom level, you can see that's where we're actually gathering and capturing data. So we do that in three key ways. The first is through our own IoT devices that we go down and install into the vehicles or machinery. The second is through OEM devices. So what that means is some car manufacturers on the production line, they will actually put their own devices in. We can get the data from them. And finally, it's through API integrations into other third-party enterprise software. So this could be an ERP system, a TMS system, or even sort of an HR management system. Once we've got all of that data, we then combine it and we use AI and machine learning analytics, and other data enrichment tools to contextualize that data and ensure that it's practical and can drive impact for our customers. We then take these insights and through the customer facing side of our platform, which I will show you later on, we then allow our customers to have a centralized platform for simplified decision making for whatever it is that they want to achieve, whether it's increasing safety, reducing their costs, ensuring they have visibility over their operation, managing their workforce, managing their deliveries, etc. And obviously, that then solves their main pain points around safety, productivity, profitability. Now we're having a look at our actual platform itself. So over here you can see that when the customer lands, they get an overview of their vehicles and where they are in real-time positioning. The first product that I want to highlight is actually about our vision solution. So these are cameras that we install into vehicles and they can come with AI or not. There are a few key things that our cameras do. So the first thing is obviously that customers can live stream their vehicles in real time. Here you can see that we've got one vehicle where they have both a road facing camera as well as an in-cabin facing camera where we can see our driver. The really powerful thing about our cameras though is their ability to actually prevent accidents from happening in fleets. So when we talk about accident prevention with our AI-powered cameras, it works in two phases. The first phase is when the driver is in a high-risk incident in the first place, preventing that accident from happening. The second phase is from preventing that high-risk driving behavior from reoccurring at all. So phase one is we're in a dangerous situation, let's prevent an accident from coming out of it. Phase two is let's prevent ourselves from being in a high-risk incident in the first place at all. So how does that work? Well, in phase one, the first step is really about the cameras continuously scanning the environment to detect any high-risk event. This could include the drivers using their mobile phones, any signs of fatigue or drowsiness or distracted driving, not wearing seatbelts, etc. The second step is once they've detected that incident, they audibly alert drivers in the cabin so that the driver is aware that this is happening and they can actually correct their behavior before something happens. Phase two is really about coaching. So on the coaching level, the first step is managers are alerted with footage of events so that the managers actually know what's going on the ground and are aware of the kind of driving behavior that their drivers are exhibiting. And then step two from that is that managers can have really effective footage-based coaching sessions with their drivers so that they can coach the drivers on what to improve and just ensure that drivers are fully aware of what their behavior is like and also the risks of it. Let's take a look at what that looks like in practice. Firstly, here's a clip of a driver. In 200 meters. On the platform itself, if we were to click here, we can see that this is actually the event. So here's the same video. Now this is the manager's view and this is what they would see on our platform. So from this they can review the footage itself, understand what happened, and then decide whether or not the driver needs to be coached on such an event. So if they want to send it for coaching, they would just click here, select the coach, how important it is, the priority level, and whether there are any comments. Next up, if we go to our actual coaching tool itself and we go to the events, the ones that need coaching, here we can see is our event. And again, as a coach or as a manager, depending on who is going to conduct the coaching, they can go back and review the event. They can also see how many times the driver has committed this event in the past year and how many times they have already been coached on this event too. Now, normally what would happen is they would sit down with the drivers, conduct the coaching, show them the events, as a lot of times drivers actually aren't that aware of what their behavior is like, and things always hit a little bit differently when you actually watch a video of yourself exhibiting this behavior. So the coach can then sit notes and say what exactly happened in the coaching and mark it as completed. So sat with Fadli. Agreed, needs to be more cautious of Sleeping times before driving, for example, and completed. And then on the completed tab over here, we can see all of the events in case we ever want to go back and do an audit. The next part of the solution that I'll be taking you through covers how we can help customers manage their fuel more effectively. In this section of the platform, it's not so much about how well the fuel is being consumed, i.e. the fuel efficiency of the vehicles. This is really about making sure that all of the fuel that the company is paying for is really being used by company vehicles for company purposes. If you were to imagine a fleet, generally these fleets are spending tens of thousands every month on their fuel bill. Now, imagine we have 3 vehicles or 10 or 100. Those vehicles are being topped up every couple of days, depending on how often they're being used. But generally, if it's a fleet-based business, those vehicles are being topped up with fuel every couple of days. Now, as an admin or a finance officer, or even a fleet manager, you're going to want to make sure that all of the receipts that you're receiving for your fuel bill were actually used for your company vehicles. That can take hours and hours, and it's quite difficult to do without some level of automation or at least some telemetry data. So the first thing that companies need to do when they're validating their fuel claims is check, was the vehicle actually at the station when the fuel was put into the vehicle? And secondly, did the fuel that was put on the receipt actually go into the vehicle itself? And that's really what our MyFleet solution does. So it automates the entire process. So what a manager can do is they can just, from their fuel cards, they download all of their fueling history, and then they can just import that into our platform. The platform will then go through all of the transactions and automatically check this fuel card is for this vehicle, and then review all of the transactions of that fuel card for that vehicle and see where was the vehicle at the time of the fueling and how much fuel was there a change in the actual fuel tank of the vehicle itself. It will then risk flag the different fueling events for managers to either investigate themselves or just say, yes, this all looks okay. So if we were to look at one of the examples here, you can see we've got this vehicle. Now, the interesting thing about this is initially this would have been flagged as suspicious behavior and high risk fueling. However, you can see that afterwards it was actually approved by a manager. So how does this work? Well, the first step, like I said, was to check the location. And we can see this is where the vehicle was at the time of the fueling, and there are actually no petrol stations found nearby, so which is normally a red flag. The second is that the fuel tank didn't actually see a change in the amount of fuel put into it at the time of the refueling, another red flag. Another check that our platform does, especially for vehicles who do not have fuel monitoring, is to just check a basic check, which is the amount of fuel that was on the receipt. Would that even fit into the vehicle's tank capacity in the first place? Which in this case it did. However, our first 2 checks show that the vehicle wasn't there at the time and there was no change in the fuel of the vehicle itself. However, what could have happened is this is then alerted to a manager as a high risk event, and when the manager goes through to review it, they could have seen that, oh, actually, no, this makes sense because on this day, this fuel card, which is normally assigned to our reefer truck, we actually gave it to another vehicle to use, in which case this transaction is okay, it just wasn't actually used for this vehicle. We'll take a look at our delivery tool. So our delivery tool helps businesses digitalize their entire delivery or in-field service process from start to end. This includes creating jobs, dispatching jobs to drivers, following the progress of jobs to know whether they're being done on time, where the driver is, when they've arrived, when they've started the work, as well as receiving feedback on when that work has been done with electronic proof of delivery or signatures or photos, whatever it is, and then to having all of the reporting on exactly what was done when, whether it was completed or not. So this has 2 key industries that it services. The first is obviously the logistics industry. So these are people doing either last mile or non-last mile logistics. So delivering, for example, the sneakers that you ordered to your house. The second industries or type of industries that this can help would be in-field services. So this would be something like the landscaping company that sends their drivers out to come and cut the plants and add fertilizer to the plants in your gardens, or the aircon servicing guy, the plumber, who can either have appointments booked in advance to come and service your units, or it could be that there's a drain that's burst in your flat and you need somebody to be sent down to fix it immediately. So what the delivery tool does is it helps a company create the job. So let's say, for example, it's you and you need somebody to come down as an emergency to come and fix your pipe. So they could immediately assign this to a driver, say where the job would start, whether there's any special equipment that's required, where they would start, and where they would go to do the work, for example. So this would be your address. What then happens is the drivers who have a mobile app will immediately receive the alert of this job with all of the instructions that they need to create it, and then they can obviously start it. As the drivers are starting their work and completing it, this will all be updated along here, so you can see the list of all the jobs and you can see what's actually going on. A key part of this would really be about helping customers plan all of their routes and plan all of their driver schedules. Now, generally speaking, what can happen in a lot of these companies is that they create all of the jobs on an Excel, they print that Excel, and they give the drivers just a piece of paper for all of their work to do. They then have to manually WhatsApp call drivers throughout the day to get updates, and then to really understand whether the job was completed or not, they either wait for a customer to confirm or to complain that their drivers haven't arrived with their goods. Now, you can imagine that if your team is completing 100 jobs a day, assigning those jobs to the specific drivers is quite a laborsome job or piece of work, because not only do you want to go and assign things based off of areas or based off of routes so that your drivers will minimize all of the mileage that they're traveling, but also you need to make sure that any special requirements are made. So for example, if the logistics company has promised that they will deliver the goods between 2 p.m. and 4 p.m., then that delivery must be done in that time slot, and that is an extra restriction. The way that our tool helps simplify this for customers is, imagine we have all of these jobs over here, 33 jobs, and we know that we're going to have 2 drivers, John Smith and Brian Lim, available for the day. All that the company has to do is auto plan, and all of those jobs would be automatically assigned to each of the drivers, and routes would be created for each of them. This automates their entire process and really helps them not only ensure that their jobs and works and planning is efficient for drivers, that they're going to minimize the mileage traveled, minimize the fuel consumption that they're using, but also instead of having 2 or 1 admin staff plan the routes for their entire day as their job, it's done within 5 minutes. Finally, as the last part of the training program, we're going to take a quick look at more of the standard telemetry features that our platform offers. So obviously, first up, we have the map with all of our vehicles, like I mentioned before. On this, if we quickly look at each of our drivers, we get a nice overview of all of the activity that they've had over the last 7 days. So where it's green, you know that the vehicle was moving and that the ignition was on. If we want to have a look at a specific day, then what we can simply do is on the table level, we can see all of the trips that were done, where obviously we can get more information on those. And on a map level, we can also just see all of the routes that the driver did and whether there were any specific events that happened. Finally, we can also check for high-risk driving behavior around speeding, other harsh events like acceleration, braking, cornering, you name it. So this just helps customers get an overview of what their drivers and vehicles have been up to for the day. We're in the business of making our customers' lives easier, not making our customers stalk drivers on a map. So we have some features that we add on top of this telemetry data to really help automate processes and just give customers insights on what actually matters to their business. Now, an example of that is a geofence. So a geofence allows us to mark an area of importance to a customer. Now, this could be, let's say you are a logistics company and you want to mark down your warehouses so that you know when your drivers enter or leave your warehouse, or it could be whether you could be a corporate company with a sales team who use vehicles and you need to know when the sales team is actually driving those vehicles out of your office to go and meet customers. So an easy way that we would do that is, let's say this is where our office is, so we can just right click and add a geofence. So over here we would zoom in, and then let's say this is our office location. So we're going to create a geofence here. We're going to call it office and save. Now this gives us extra data so that we know what's going on. So if we go back to our corporate company and we have our sales team using the vehicles, as a sales manager, I may want to know every time my vehicles have left the office so that I know that my sales team or my sales person has actually left the building and is on the way to meet customers. Now obviously we don't want our customers to sit and monitor the map to see the vehicle leaving the area, and an alert would be a lot more useful. So we can go and create an alert. So we would say sales personnel left office, and we want to know whenever they have left the geofence. We would select our office geofence and either apply this to all vehicles or to specific vehicles. Then our manager can decide whether they want to be alerted by email, SMS, through our alert center or RSS. And for example, I want to know, then I can send it whenever and I would create the alert. Now, as a sales manager, I would know every time my team has actually left the office, and it's not something that I have to sit and monitor a platform and watch a platform for. I would just know as soon as it happens so that I can be focusing on the things I need to focus on, but get all of the important information as and when it happens. Step beyond that is getting reporting and insights, not just on a real-time level, but also to see exactly what's happened. So fleet managers can get reports that show every vehicle, what time they entered or left a geofence, but also on a dashboard level, they can actually go and see, as of right now, how many vehicles do I have in my specific geofences. So again, I'm a sales manager. I want to know how many vehicles I still have downstairs. So let's say, for example, I have 10 vehicles assigned to my 10 salespeople, and I know that today they should be out in the field. I'm going to be concerned that I still have one salesperson who has not yet left the office, and I want to know why. Similarly, for a logistics and warehousing company, they may want to check how many vehicles they currently have in their warehousing compound, because they know if they have more than 5 vehicles in the zone, then it becomes a problem because they start to create traffic and congestion and things slow down. So they may create one geofence which is for their entire warehousing compound and another geofence within that which is a waiting area. So they would expect that in the entire compound, let's say I have 10 vehicles, but if I have 10, I know I can only have 5 of them actually by the bays, which would mean that I need 5 of them also in the waiting area. Our live dashboard can be customized, so you can add different widgets depending on what it is that's important for your business to monitor on a real-time basis. The next step is we also have our historical dashboard. So this takes all of the data for whatever dates that you choose, the date range, let's say last 30 days, and it shows you key metrics around what actually happened. So whether it's around safety, let's say the daily harsh events where we can see how many were around acceleration, braking or cornering, or around vehicle productivity, fuel efficiency, to see our daily idle rates, i.e. how much were our vehicles actually spent in the idling state. Naturally, we don't want that to be very high. So this allows us to get a snapshot of all the historical performance of our fleet. So we also get insights onto where do we need to improve, where do we need to focus, what's looking better and what's not. And with that, we've come to the end of our training. Thank you so much for the time. Thanks again for your interest in Cartrack, and all the best for the short quiz. Bye.